Without further ado, allow me to welcome our acclaimed and eminent speaker of tonight, Mr. Suuresh Halarnakkar. Suuresh is a seasoned product design leader who has been instrumental in transforming the design orientation of many global organizations to deliver top-notch digital customer experiences. His expertise spans across creative strategy for global products, end-to-end product and UX design, and development for digital technologies in B2B and B2C for the internet, desktops, handheld devices, and beyond. Having started his career as a graphic designer, he's held design leadership positions at companies like Adobe, Yahoo, Amazon, and IBM. A very warm welcome to you, Suresh. We are thrilled to have you here with us tonight. Handing the session over to you now.
All right, thank you so much, Shama, and welcome everybody, and thank you for joining this session. What I plan to do in this session is, talk to you guys on two different aspects, rather of the same subject, about how I made my career transition from graphic designing to product design and how that has helped me shape my career, and what it is in general right now, and why should somebody think of if you're already in a design, graphic design field, why should you make that shift or that transition? I'll try to share some thoughts that I have around here, and I'm safely assuming here that most of you who joined this call are enthusiasts or either have some aspiration to grow into a product leadership role or product design role from graphic design, and you already know some knowledge about graphic design and this industry in general. So I'm going to share some information around that. So it'll be I hope that's helpful. If not, you can always post a question in the chat, and then I probably would take that up, or you can ask me somewhere towards the end of my session, so we could actually I can actually help you take through that. So without further delay, I'll like to share my screen and probably run you through.
Suresh, I've launched the poll. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the results here.
Yes, that's good to know that most of the folks are from the graphic design industry. So it helps. Okay, can you see the screen, Shama? Can you see my screen now?
No, I don't see your screen yet.
Okay, let me see. It's asking me to share. Okay, I had to do some settings, so I'm just going to share screen again.
Now we can see your screen, yes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
And we also have the results. So the majority of our audience is from the digital background, followed by the UX design background, and nobody from the print.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so folks, here's what we are going to do. Shema, how do I take out this poll? It's right in the middle of the
You just close it.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, you are still able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
All right. So thank you for the warm introduction, Shema, and everybody out here. I'll probably take about 30 minutes or so. I'll try to cover as much as I can. This is a very vast topic and very widely discussed as well. And most of you who are already in the journey, who have started as a graphic design, who are probably thinking of making this shift into product design, or that word is also used as UX design / product design, and we also know that there are multiple streams or multiple branches within the product design itself. So I'm going to touch a little bit about more on that, which is product design in general and what it makes, what it is. So first of all, we need to understand what's the difference, right? I mean, what is graphic design versus product design? And most often people are confused what these two mean, especially the younger folks who come from right from the school, either design school or art school, and they want to figure out what is product design, what is UX design, what is graphic design, what is visual design. That's the confusion there is. So graphic design, according to me, is not product design, right? I mean, there are vast differences among the two, and I'll let me take you through some of those. very briefly talking about this with basically when we say graphic design, we talk about either in print, or if you're talking about digital, it could be something you're doing for a website, a graphic, or image, or you're doing some interface, which is basically putting some icons, buttons into navigate around in the either website or a product. So graphic design is different. I mean, what graphic design contains is basically is form of art, right? I mean, you make things beautiful, you make things look appealing, delightful. You basically kind of touch upon certain senses of the customer or the person who's looking at stuff, get them engaged into the visual that you're creating. You may not necessarily solve any problem through this. I mean, like, you don't have to, you may address some scenario, or you may basically portray some fact or event in a picture graphic, or some illustration format, but you're not really looking at solving any problem as such in a big way. You do have a lot of creative freedom. You can think, the kind of tools that you can use, the kind of colors that you can use. You may not have many limitations around doing that, or except for such sizes and things like that. You will also focus on form and aesthetics of the graphic that you're creating, and where it goes and things like that. You may or may not have enough data around, or may not require to have enough data around what graphic you're creating. Let's say if you're creating a poster, or if you're creating a image, or a home or a hero image for a website and things like that. So not necessary that you get all the inputs. You may sometimes think about your inputs and have that freedom to design. um, you may not have sometimes it is told to you, hey, you have to finish it in 3 days of 8 hours or 9 hours. But if you're like an artist or a graphic designer who don't work particularly with any team as such, you may have ample amount of time with you to kind of create a masterpiece. Budget may or may not be a constraint. Sometimes you are told, "Hey, I have only 50,000 rupees to create this brochure or artwork or a creative." Sometimes that may not be there. You have to come out with that budget and say, This is what I'm going to charge." And most of the times you may not have the pressure of ROI. What I mean by ROI is return on investment. So somebody's paying you, and when you create your graphic, you put it out there. It has to fetch some money, or it has to add some value to the customer or something like that. You may not have that defined really well. Um, Whereas when it comes to product design, it's art, of course, which is the creative part of it. But there's a lot of other things that come along with it. It's also science. It's also the technology. You need to think about whom you're designing for, which platform you're designing for, what technology will be used. There are a lot of things that you consider. You think about research. You have to think about marketing. You talk about sales. How are sales going to use it? How is marketing going to use it? And how you're good, whom you're designing it for. Basically, you're understanding the users, the market, the conditions, all of that. And you are definitely solving a problem. There will be some problem that will come to you, either somebody is having an issue filling up a form, or applying for a new card online, or anything of that sort, right? So you are definitely going to have some problem that you are solving that for, and you're designing for that. This also means that it comes with a lot of constraints. I mean, sometimes you may not know the market, sometimes you not understand the technology, sometimes you know who and how, in what context the people will use it. So you need to understand all of that. You definitely have form, function, and aesthetic, which the delight part of what we speak about. How do we engage the user? How do we excite them? How do we create that stickiness so the users keep coming into our product and use our product every day without getting bored of it, or without starting to hate it. And it basically becomes their part of their life in some way. All the tools or the products that we do, it also changes their lifestyle, because they work around your product to do certain things, right? So it becomes the part of behavior and the lifestyle, and it impacts their day-to-day life, like their life as well. Okay, we have to use this tool to do this. I have to use this tool to get my work done or my task done. And product design is definitely time bound. Nobody is going to give you, like, okay, 3 months to do this project, 4 months to do this project. It will be very well defined. If there is a product to be launched every part of the project would have been planned, the roadmap would have been planned, when certain things have to be delivered, how to be, they have to be tested, they have to be measured, and all those things. So it definitely has a very tight timeline around things, and that within that timeline you have to basically kind of understand the product, understand the consumers whom you're designing for, understand the constraints, then come out with solutions, validate those solutions with people, get it approved internally, get it approved with the technical teams, whether whatever your design is feasible to do or no, and those kind of discussions. So we are very limited on time there. You would be designing in digital scenario for local and global. I mean, there will be products that you would be basically having a local market, like an India market, and there will be products that you might be designing for the world, which goes all around the world. Everybody in the world uses it. You may get an opportunity like this, which also means you are designing for multi devices. So it is just not a product for laptop or a desktop. You would be also designing for iPads, mobiles, so whatever the digital platforms you come across, even for televisions, and even now connected cars and things like that, right? Driverless cars. So you're going to design those interfaces, how people are going to actually use this for those devices. So it's the horizon is pretty large, right? And then we are definitely working within a limited budget. So if you are as a startup company, or even if it's an established company and you're starting a small project within that or product within the company, you'll be told, okay, you have X amount of money to kind of build this product and roll it out to the customers. And then you learn from the market, you make some revenue, and that's how the products would be extended to different features or different markets and so on and so forth. So you definitely will have to work within the budget. And then as a product designer, you would basically have to, kind of work with whatever you have. So if you don't have a researcher, you jump in and do the research. If you don't have a product writer, what we call as people who help you with the copywriting, you step in and do the copywriting bit. If you don't understand the technology, or there are people who don't know how to do it, you have to learn the technology, either it's HTML or JavaScript, because you may want to show how the product works, right? The function part of it. So you may want to prototype it. What I mean by prototype is you take a series of images, bound them together, make them interactive, and showcase that to the engineers and your product managers and other stakeholders in the company. So they understand, okay, how you have designed it, how it works, how the interactions are, what happens after you click here, what happens before you do that, what sort of emotions are created, all of that. So you have to understand technology as well. And you have to also consider how this will impact the customer in first place, and ultimately that would translate into some meaningful business impact, right? What I mean by that is, once you roll out this feature to the customers sign up for the product, either they download or they sign up for your website or the service online, they start using it. So there is engagement that comes in. So you measure that, and you say, okay, after we redesign the product, or after we design it this way, with all the things in mind, the average time taken for people to engage with the product has gone up X percentage. You should be able to show that impact, what we call as ROI here, on the business, right? And it could be as simple as customer satisfaction level. We call it CSAT. How happy are the customers? You run a survey, whether they like it, they don't like it, they're delighted. All of this, because if that happens, the customers will stay with the product, they'll purchase things, or they may sign up for more services, and that's how it creates an impact on the business. Ultimately, it impacts the revenue. So you got to think of that. And more importantly, every product designer would also think in a very larger sense of what are the things that when you're designing would impact this product. What we call as, you may want to see, there might be an environmental impact, like some natural disaster may happen. In that context, how the product will behave. There could be economic problems, that we may run out of cash, or some other change in policies come in picture that might have impact the business, government policies or otherwise. There will be social impact, where some riots somewhere and they shut down the product or things like that. There is social, cultural, And even technology wise, what kind of technology are you using it, how, if the technology stack changes tomorrow, how is it going to impact the product? So, and much more. So what happens is the product designer has to really think across all the aspects of this product or the business, and try to come out with solutions that kind of satisfy everybody's curiosity and everybody's needs within the team. How the product managers would work, how the engineers will develop it, how the marketing will kind of take it to the users, how the sales will sell it. So across all the touch points. So that's a basic difference. I mean, when you're a product designer, you are actually thinking like a CEO of the product, literally, right from how it will look, what kind of branding it will have, what kind of audience it should, reach out to, what kind of impact the audience should have, and so on and so forth. So that's a basic difference, right? Let me just go to the next slide and I'll be able to help you better here. So this is, my journey, like, per se. When I started my career in 1995, graphic design or art was this, right? When you have you have beautiful graphics, you have sketching, you have animations, you have storyboarding tools, audio video films, and visual communication, photography happening. All of this was part of the graphic design field, right? What happened as I progressed in my career was, in the early 2000s, and somewhere later that, this term came up, which is user experience design. So you're making interactive products which consider human empathy. We call it, we are designing for people here. There are machines who kind of interact with humans. So we got to bring in human empathy. What is the design strategy? New word. How do we actually go about doing things? That is usability, like how user friendly it is for users to use our product, how happy they are, how fast they can do things on our product. That's testing. Are they able to do it? Are they able to do how much faster, how much slower? What are the interaction design, the visual design, which is also part of graphic design, right? And then a whole lot of other things that came up, right? Information architecture, content design, and different devices. Earlier we had only desktop, then laptops came, and then the mobile and the other things were coming in. So you can see the layer around it, which is graphic design, is at the core of it. And then there is a UX design, which is user experience design, what we call it, around it, which has all of these things. And then as we move forward, as I progress in my career, for example, around 2015 and onwards, I had to kind of, expand my horizon into customer experience, what we call as CX. Now, what does it do? This is the realm where the product designer actually starts thinking about products in a holistic manner. We have, custom feedback that we need to consider. We need to look at what marketing is doing, what kind of advertising will happen of our product, what's the brand reputation, what is sales doing, what's the pricing strategy like, all of this, right from the person who thinks that he's using the service, like maybe booking a ticket online, till he travels and gives us a feedback. That entire scenario has to be what we call as a customer experience. And the product, as a product designer, I need to consider all of this, because there are a lot of insights that come from when the person thinks of traveling. For example, if I have to call out an example of booking a ticket, at that point of time, he's thinking different. He's probably is curious, that he's just thinking to himself, what are my options? How am I traveling? How fast should I go? What are the days I'm traveling? Considering that factor, if he comes to our product, how can we help him with that, with that scenario where he can make a quick choice? Okay, here's the date, here's the buses available, here are the prices, and I can choose now. Till the day that he actually travels in the bus or the aircraft, or the taxi, we have to manually, actually look at all those scenarios, under what scenario he's going to use our product, in what context he's going to use the product, till he kind of completes his journey and gives us a feedback. Wow, this was really peaceful, I really like to give some feedback here. So all of this then we put together, and then kind of build upon our products to make them more user friendly, more customer focused, and things like that. So this is the world I have kind of exposed myself through over last 20 25 years or so, because I started my journey actually as a as a graphic designer, I completed my Bachelor of Fine Arts and going to art school. That time, there were no interactive schools like, we have NIDs today, IDCs today, which teach you interaction design, which teach you UX design, but there was nothing like that. So we had to work with changing times, how the technology is impacting business. People were pivoting to different businesses. Like, earlier it was web design, then it became flash design, then it became, something else. Now we have, things like that. Now we have apps. So, and going forward, it will be something else. So it's a growing field. So, but still, graphic design or creativity is at the core of it. And then everything else kind of started building around it. So this is what really is, according to me, is product design, which you got to think like a CEO. Even if you are a designer or product designer, unless you think it, nobody can see it. You have to envision it, you have to put it in picture, and make that concept or idea of someone into picture. This is how the product would work. This is how it will look. This is how users will do. This is how we'll make money. This is how we'll create excitement. This is how we'll create delight for the customer. This is how we'll build stickiness, and so on and so forth. So it's a very large field. So if you look at a product designer per se, this is what it is. I mean, even I consider myself this. I have so many things that are in my kitty. Yes, graphic design is just one of them, and that's core actually. Because if I don't know how to draw, how to put things in picture, I may be a terrible product designer. But if I do have it, it's an edge for me. Then I'm exposed to so many things. I have to, you know, learn about ROI, user testing, how I put my story across. So I learn about storytelling. I learn about how the product will be marketed. Design thinking comes in a which way. That's why design thinking as a course, I had to upgrade myself to how do I take design thinking to solve problems internally. Like they say, if logic does, where logic fails, but design thinking kicks in. So you have to creatively solve those problems. So you have to uplift yourself, which also becomes part of a product designer, to kind of understand new technologies, new things, new trends, and evangelize those trends within the company, within the team, to bring them up to speed of what's happening, why we should do certain things, what's the industry going towards, how the user habits changing, and what is the strategy we are going to have. So all this is just like, a Swiss knife, like I showed you. There's so many things that a product designer needs to be, at least be knowing of it. Of course, few things he will be very good at. Few things he may not so be good at, but you should be aware of all those things. That's like a complete full stack product designer. And there are much more, but I'm just calling out some, right? And once you do that, what happens is, in companies like which have, we have worked in past. Like, here is an example from IBM where I worked earlier, where we have large teams, of product designers, visual designers. We have also graphic designers, and interaction designers, you name it. And then you have art directors and so on and so forth, and you have managers. And how does that career progression happen? So once you make that transition from graphic design to learn more technology, more skill sets, you're expanding your armory to learn new things. These are the parts that are there in IBM. For example, they're called bands, right? I mean, you are a fresher, then you start with what do you call it, like your entry level, then you go to foundation level, then you have experience, then you become expert, and then you become a thought leader. And everything is a band. So I'm just calling that as an example here. So all of that actually goes into this. And there are different tracks, like, I mean, based on what kind of skill sets you have gained over a period of time. There are two tracks. Once you reach mid-level design, then you can basically choose, either you have to take up design management, which means you are going to lead people, and you have to lead certain products with those people. So you have become a people manager. The other track is, you're still an individual contributor. You stay that way, and you become like a principal designer, an extinguished designer, and a fellow designer. So you keep going based on your experience and the kind of work that you kind of put in over a period of time in a company, or any company that, for that matter. If you're changing a job, you got to be very clear as a product designer, what are my next steps, what is that I want to do next. So this horizon is just out there, and if you are making the transition, you got to look at this is the possibilities now, how my career will grow if I do the right things, if I upskill myself in the right way, if I do the products in the right way, and if I have a good portfolio of experiences, what we call as portfolio of sample work that I can kind of portray and showcase. These are the ways that you can grow. Why make this transition? Like I said, it's a vast area. There's a huge demand for these are hot skills. Product design, UX design are hot skills. They've been there for last 5 years. They continue to grow into 2021. Of course, there are new things coming like XR, VR, which virtual reality, then voice-based commands, gestures, which will be coming into connected cars or driverless cars or any other product that are out there right now, or Alexa or anything. So those skills are hot, but still that needs all that package. When you say product design, you need to understand all of it. There is a very high industry demand which will continue to next at least 10 to 15 years, and most of the study reports show the same. And of course, if you make the transition, there is a 3x high pay. And this is the data that we have kind of collated from various sources in India specifically. Today, if you are a graphic designer transitioning into product design, if you compare the two, this is where you will stand. If you have 8 years experience, a graphic designer who has a limited capacity of role, who's designing for a few things, he has that. But if you are a full rounded, full stack product designer, you can earn much, much higher, right? So there's a big difference here. And the demand is there. It's just about for us to upskill ourselves, learn new things, and putting ourselves up there to kind of learn across what's happening in the industry and how that's going to be leveraged. So very briefly about my journey, how I started, and I'll just take a few minutes here. um, I started way back in 1995, and I thought, in 5 years, that's a purview that I had, and I'll become an art filmmaker or art director. And I had all the tools that time to, storyboarding and you name it. So I was doing that, but something changed on the way. And here I am today after nearly 25 years in the industry. And I had done that transition in 95 itself, from graphic designer to becoming going into a sort of a product design person, uh, because I was leading, and we were doing a lot of interactive programs that would go on CD-ROMs and websites. So between 95 and 97, I had already done that transition, and that kind of helped me to keep sail through the years to become a full stack product designer, or whatever I am right now, creative manager. Because as times passed, different devices came in, different businesses came in, and we had to kind of adapt ourselves, learn that technology, learn new things, and then keep moving forward, right? So, but what if you look at it, what stayed constant in the journey has been this the light green line at the bottom, which says creative. The creativity lies at the bottom of everything. On top of that, of course, there's a layer of technology, because I kept on upgrading myself to different businesses, different technologies, like I said, and that kept me going. And I kept upgrading myself with different skills of, hey, I went into instruction design, I went into product leaderships, human computer interaction, things like that. So it's like I had to keep building those the weapons in my armory to kind of tackle new things that are coming up, and that's what kept me going. So one thing that I may want to give you as a tip, if at all you are thinking, or you are on the way of making that transition, is this five things, if you want to remember, is very important to increase your skill set. So when you say I want to become from graphic design to product designer, as I said, there are many things that you need to learn. So that kind of expands your horizon. You got to open your mindset and gain all these skill sets in your armory, because that is very key to it. Concentrate less on the pixels, focus on the functionality. What I mean by this is you're already good at something in your graphic design tool, and now go on to learn about how this form and function would work. How would I go about doing this in a more interactive way? What should I do? What tools should I learn, or what techniques should I learn? Build that up. Understand coding, very very important. I'm not mean that you have to be expert at it, but you have to understand what are the technologies for what we call as front end coding today, meaning whatever you design as somebody to code it and it starts behaving in a certain way on different devices. So it could be HTML, JavaScript, it could be any analytical tools that you want to use. Learn that, because those are something that come really handy when you're prototyping stuff. You want to show things in motion. There are tools available today, but if you learn, if you have core knowledge of it, it really certainly helps, and that has an edge. Improve your network. If you know somebody who's made this transition, like me perhaps, talk to them. Figure out where you stand, if you're stuck, and what's the next route you should take. That really will help. And last but not the least, start something. Don't wait for somebody to teach you how to do an interactive, how to look at product design. Think something for yourself, like take any parallel product. It could be something like Licious, buying fish or meat online, and see how you would go about doing it. Who is it for? How it should work? How can it make it better than what it is? Can you put a prototype together? Can you see how it works in a sample kind of a prototype? That would be really good, because that gives you a lot of confidence. And then when you're talking to somebody, you can always say, I understood this, I understood the product, I understood people, I understood the problem, and this is what I've built on my limited knowledge. That will give a lot of mileage, and the confidence will be really high. So just go ahead and do that. Yeah, that's all I had to share. I'm I think a little over time, but happy to answer any question or any queries that you may have. Or you can always look out for me on my LinkedIn and post it there. I'll be more than happy to kind of answer your queries. Thank you.
Thank you for delivering a brilliant session, Suresh. Really great insights. And we will definitely come back to you with the Q&A part. But for the next part of the session, please allow me to welcome Nitin Murli from the product team at the Institute of Product Leadership. And he's here to talk about how you can make the transition to product design. And he'll take about 10 minutes for his presentation. After that, audience will open up for Q&A. Nitin, all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Shama. So I'll just share my screen now.
Nitin, your voice is a little feeble. Could you please
Yeah,
up the
any
volume?
better now?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Suresh, for delivering that amazing talk. So if there's one takeaway that graphic designers and visual designers can take, it's all about looking at the big picture, right? Interacting with being a cross-functional specialist, interacting with the engineering team, interacting with the marketing team, interacting with the sales team. So to that end, we've brought in a program, International Certification in User Experience. It's an off-campus program, and it's a live online program approved by the Executive Industry Council. And this is a program that is relevant, that is contemporary, and career focused. So we've interacted with hiring managers, and if there's one thing we understood, it's this: hiring managers look out for people who have an end-to-end understanding of design. So hiring man, if you can devise a workflow, if you can translate that into a lo-fi wireframe, if you can convince the management to adopt the design, and you can do that, and you can translate that into hi-fi wireframe, take it to production with the engineering team, see how users interact, and at the end of the day, also envision how that impacts the overall business. You are a full stack designer, and you are of value. So I'll just take a quick I'll just take you through the course over the next 5 minutes. So we believe just watching videos don't help you build careers or help you learn new skills. For any kind of an experiential learning, you need some other things apart from the course content. So as you can see, our course is designed for 5 months, but we recommend that you finish the program in 5 months and start your journey in design. However, you also have access for the next 12 months. So you can always, even after completing the program, you can always come back and refer to the material. And the next thing is, we have a hands-on learning by doing approach to learning by doing approach is at the core of all of our programs at ITF. So you will be working on problem statements. So a problem statement that I came across 2 weeks back was how do you devise a purchase workflow to decrease the cart abandonment rates by 5% for an e-commerce company? So if a hiring manager at a Flipkart sees this, so they can immediately understand that your domain skills in the e-commerce industry is very good, and you will be considered for the next step of the interview. So so any program at IPL, we have a hands-on approach to doing it. So if you aren't building skills, if you aren't learning alongside, if you aren't building a portfolio, then you're not doing anything right. And the next thing that I want to talk about is community and networking. So in today's era, when most of the jobs are getting filled by referrals, who you know is more important than what you know. So you can attend campus events, attend career workshops, e-learning courses, webinars to have a deeper understanding of design. Get career advice from veterans like Suresh himself, and network with people in your domain. So that is one more thing that acts as a add-on to any learning program. And we also have a curated digital learning library. So in the internet era, knowledge is available everywhere, and without proper curation, you might be learning something that adds very little value. So we believe learning is good, but focused, laser sharp learning with clear career outcomes is great. So you get access to a library of continuously updated courses to enhance your knowledge on other areas, other soft skills like the art of storytelling, negotiation, change management, and more. And the next highlight is something that is very close to my heart. So you always need a mentor by your side, because so that you can understand if you're doing things right, if you're doing something that's relevant, that is contemporary, and something that hiring managers look forward to. So our skill mentors is a person from Razorpay. He's a senior design manager there, the head of UX at Myntra, the head of UX at MX Player. So you can schedule unlimited calls with these people. They are hiring manager themselves, and they can tell you what they look for in a prospective candidate, guide you through the transition, and make the transition successful. So now that we've covered the highlights of the program, I thought I'll let you know the core courses that are covered as part of the program. So things are changing at an. I think the pace of the world is going high at an is very high, and things keep on changing. So we brought in a program that will teach you something that is very relevant today. So the first course, as you can see, is the designer mindset, fundamentals, and methods. So here you learn about user-centric design, the fundamentals of design, the user experience principles, how do you develop metrics to measure design, and more. For example, the click-through rate of primary buttons and lower task completion time for B2C products are metrics that you can measure to design to measure how any kind of design functions. And the next topic, as you know, is user research. If you don't know who you're designing it for, then whatever, you might have the best design in the world, but if you don't know who you're designing it for, then the customer experience won't be that great. So if you look at the user experience of Uber, so people understand the user persona is people who want to book cabs at the earliest. So once you open the app, in just 15 seconds, you can book a cab. So it's very straightforward and no nonsense. And that happens when you have a deep understanding of the user. And the next module is information architecture. So information architecture is all about how you present how do you present information in such a way that the user is not overwhelmed by it, but also increases the usability of the web application or the application manifold. So if you look at e-commerce websites like Myntra, so there's subsections, right? Men, women, kids, sportswear, home furniture and everything. But when you hover your cursor around men, you get festive wear, sportswear, party wear, footwear. So it's all about the navigation of the website. How easily a user can navigate through your website is something that is taught in this module. And the next aspect, which is very familiar with the designers out here, is visual design. If you're a graphic designer, you already have a good understanding of this module. And moving on, the last aspect and one of the most important things for a designer, for a product designer, is interaction design and prototyping. So as Suresh mentioned earlier, prototyping is a very important skill for designers, and interaction design is also one of the, is also one of the best. One of the best skills that that a product designer can upskill himself in. So how do you design a web application versus how do you design a native app on Android? The user experience varies a lot. So while designing a web application, you are constrained by the limitations of a browser. But while designing a native app on an Android or an iOS, you have a lot of leeway to do it. And here are the elective courses. So if you are a graphic designer or a visual designer, like most of the audiences today, you can skip the visual design module and take up something like value proposition design, or digital product management, or agile product management, or a design management. If you feel that you'd want to manage a team of designers, or they call it design squads, then you can take up the design management module. And if you feel you want to get into the product side of things, you can take up the value proposition module, where you will learn about defining a value proposition using the value prop canvas framework, fundamental personas, user stories, and etc. So as I said earlier, learning by doing is at the core of all of our programs at ITL. So to that end, we have 4 very interesting things that many people have been have been using. The first thing are called labs. So labs are hands-on skill building sessions by design leaders, where you would be taught tools like Adobe XD, Figma, InVision, Sketch, Illustrator, and you will also dive deep into case studies and the principles of UX, like skeuomorphism, neomorphism, visual hierarchy, how do you decrease the cognitive load, and how do you be aware of cognitive biases while building products. And the next is the clinic sessions. So these are practitioner-led interactive sessions for Q&A. So for Q&A, for assignments, for assessments, and projects. So basically you can brainstorm with your skill mentors and know different ways to approach a problem statement, how do you define workflows and everything. And moving on, live presentations. Again, this is something which allows designers to build a portfolio for themselves by completing their capstone project. You can present it to your skill mentors, receive feedback, fine-tune your presentation, and make that your portfolio as well. So as I said earlier, if you aren't building a portfolio, if you aren't applying what you're learning, then you're not doing it right. And the last and one of the most exciting things that that our students have been exposed to are skillathons. So skillathons is a short form version of skill hackathons, where you build hands-on skills and demonstrate your skills to an external jury by working on problem statements. So these juries are veterans like Suresh, and we recently had the head of design at Vedant to be one of the juries. So you can, based on their feedback, you can understand what the hiring managers are looking for in candidates. And okay, you are learning all of this, but how will this impact my career? So we have this thing called career management cell. So it's an exclusive invite-only group for IPL alumni. So it's basically an internal network to share, to network, and exchange and help each other in your endeavors. And there are also talentathons. Talentathons again is a short form version of talent hackathons, where we bring hiring managers to come and hire from Institute of Product Leadership. So this is only for the career club participants, and you can work on problem statements and present solutions to problem statements in front of the hiring managers. So for example, one problem statement was, how do you improve the discoverability of a new feature that results in an increase of engagement by X%? Again, it's a very exciting thing, and if I were a designer, I'd definitely definitely love to get my hands dirty on that. So these are some really amazing, interesting problem statements that you'll be working on. So we have a limited number of scholarships for people looking to enroll. So it's a simple assessment that you can take up, and if you're seriously considering a career in design or a program to help you upskill, you should definitely take up the assessment. So you can either sign up on the website or email us at scholarship@ipl.edu.in, or click on the link in the chat window. So you can fill up your details, and then you'll get a set of instructions to take up the program. And once you clear the threshold, you can get a scholarship worth $350 for the program. So that brings us to the end of my talk. So if you have any questions, I recommend you scan this QR code and talk to our counselors, or if you're joining from your phone, you can always click the link in the chat window and get in touch with our counselor. So with that, that's it from me, Shama. Yeah.
Thank you, Nitin. That was
Yeah.
amazing insights on the courses
Thank you.
offered by the Institute. And audience, we are open to the Q&A session now. So we have like about 10 more minutes, and then let's make the best of it. So Suresh, if you could see the Q&A window, there are a few questions lined up already. I'll read it out. The first one is from Rohit. Say we have designed a B2B tech product and people have started using the product. We plan to use direct customer interactions, surveys, and NPS to find out whether people are happy. Would this work, or am I missing something? Also, what percent of users should respond to us to conclude something, and what percent of respondents should give us a thumbs up for us to say that users are happy, more or less happy?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there are 2-3 questions within that. So I'll try to
Right.
answer.
Just let me make a quick mention before that, Suresh. Rohit, if you want to come online, please raise your hand and ask your question directly to the speaker. You can interact with him. Uh, so if you could raise your hand and I could unmute you and we can take this forward.
Right. So while he joins in, I'll just, I need to leave in just like 6 minutes, but I'll try to answer
Okay.
Rohit's question. Rohit, yeah, the number of people is something, it again depends what we call a sample size when you're testing something, and maybe a survey or whatever. But typically anything above 9 is a good number to make certain decisions based on what they like, what they don't like. Yes, there are different frameworks available for CSAT, customer satisfaction surveys. It could be NPS, there is SUS, system usability score, that's to measure happiness quotient. It really depends, and of course there are surveys and the other things. And you could also talk to customers directly if you have access to them. Unfortunately, what happens in our B2B scenario is that sometimes you may not even see the customers. I mean, like your salespeople see them, or somebody else sees them from marketing side, and they represent a customer. But if you have that access to customers, you are in luck, my friend. So if you have that, you should use that platform to reach out to uh, as many customers as possible. Talk to them on a regular basis. Try to see, probably make them part of your your efforts to continuously improve your product features. What we call as partnering with them. It really helps. If they, you would know the customers and how important those customers are. If they're on your time zone, it helps. This should be good enough, but what is really the key here is which framework to use it for what. If you are using a survey, for example, you are just taking a poll. I like this, I don't like this, or I would have a wish list. So probably a survey is better. If you're looking at your system usability score, how many people find it useful or no, SUS is a different framework, so you could use it in that context. NPS again is a different framework, so you need to really figure out what is that you want to drive on, what is the metrics that you want to drive off. And there are also these are mostly on products that are launched, right? And they are all in the market. The typical scenario is that you put it out there, let it be there for a good 2-3 months so people get used to it. Then you start engaging in these activities. But even if you don't want to do that, you could do something like hallway test or regular validations for with your users. If you have a good bank of users whom you can partner with and take constant feedback with them. I hope that answers that question.
Uh, can I ask something on that, please?
Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
Rohit, please go for it.
So sometimes what happens is that if when you are speaking with a customer, or you give a survey, or you send that NPS question,
Mhm.
it also depends on the mood of the customer. And sometimes when you are speaking with them, they just say, yes, we like the product, uh, even though they do not find the product that great. So
Mhm.
how do you overcome that?
Okay, so there are different tips and tricks for handling this customer engagement interviews. So I'll very briefly will outline that for you, and we can probably, you can reach out to me separately. I can talk about it. So what we call as, there's a trick that when you go to a customer, yes, you are right. I mean, there is no mean why they would be, spending that kind of time with you, because you are benefiting from it, right? Not them. So they are investing some amount of time, and yeah, you are right. They may be saying something which they don't really believe in. That's what we say. What they do and what they say are totally different things. They may say, no, I like this, but they don't really do. Or they may say, I'm using this software every day, but they may not use it. So the trick to that is explaining very clearly ahead of time to the customer why you are there, why are you meeting him, how long will it take, what's in it for that person, what's in it for you. So your approach would be, we are trying to learn from you because you are our esteemed customer, and we want to partner with you so that we can take your inputs to improvise our service, and things like that. And then you go ahead and you basically, calm them down, because it is not a test, and they should not feel like, oh, I am being tested for something. It is not their test. You are there to observe, learn from them. That's has to be very clearly told, very very empathetic way. And then you have to have a framework, like, first 2 minutes are an icebreaker, where you just break, kind of talk anything not related to your product. And then you kind of, explain them, okay, this is what we're going to do in the next half an hour, right? First 2 minutes, why don't you tell us how do you log in? Then, I'll not disturb them, right? And there it is. When they are doing a task, you just have to observe, not give guidance, don't lead them, don't be biased on anything. Oh, I have this here, you should try this. None of that. So there are just tips and tricks when you're talking to a customer, so that they don't feel pressured, or they just don't feel like, okay, I have to tell something, so I have to say something. That's not going to help at all. I hope that answers. But there's a long discussion that we can have on this.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Rohit, for that great question. And like Suresh said, you can connect with him offline or scan the QR code on the screen for further discussion with our faculty. So, in view of time constraints, Suresh, let's take this one last question from Mohammed. Mohammed, would you want to come online and elaborate on that question? The question is, what is the best UX approach? So, if you could give a little more context to that question, then it'd be great for us to answer.
Yeah, because it's a very generic question.
Right.
What is that specifically you're looking at? I mean, what do you mean by what is the best UX approach, Mohammed?
Okay, we
Okay,
have
I
a
think
few more
I think
questions lined up, Suresh, and I know it's already time for you. So,
one.
yes, if you
Maybe
could just give a
I
few.
can answer this one which Rohit has asked again.
Okay.
Technology is changing, and with it, the type and size of devices, and you never know when a new device with hit the market comes up. Okay, how do you design in such an environment? Is it good to have different designs for different size of devices? So Rohit, there is something called design system. Okay, that's in trend right now. Design system is exactly kind of being developed for things like this. Like I said, you could have anything that impacts your product. It could be environmental, it could be technology that comes in new and then it to adopt. Anything can happen, and you can't really go and keep changing your code and your design for every device that comes in new, or different version of the device comes in. Oh, 3.1 is now outdated, 3.7 has come, and it behaves differently. So what we do is we have this design systems or design language systems or design language, if you may call it. Those are like, Lego works, they're Lego blocks. They're components that we put together. We design everything. Like a button would be, what is a CTA, what's are different states of that. All these are actually made into components, and they are all fed into one particular system. And that is so fluid that we know that if it goes on iPad, it will look this way. If it goes on mobile, it will look this way. If it goes on desktop, it will look this way. Every aspect of the thing, and it is done and fed into the system. And when the change comes, anything like this, we go and update that system to incorporate new systems, new devices, we change it in one place or maybe a few places here and there. But you're pretty much ready to kind of rock and roll on anything that is new. So possibly cannot redesign for all the devices that are there or all the screens that are there. And sometimes we have a branding overhaul. Somebody takes over and you got to go and change your branding. So we don't have to touch all the code. So we just go and tweak the design systems, and then it starts, showing up on all the devices. But I'll be more
Very,
than happy to
very insightful,
talk
Suresh.
about it
Yes.
on this. We can connect separately. I really need to rush because I have to.
No problem, Suresh. I just want to thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts and amazing insights drawn from years of experience in the industry. And
Thank
I
you.
believe our audience will definitely benefit from the methods you suggested and get ahead in their career. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a nice good night.
Thank you. Good night. Nitin, there is a question from the audience end that you would like to take, maybe, and we could close the session with that note.
Yeah.
What do hiring managers look at while hiring designers? This has been on top of everybody's mind. If you could just explain on that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So hiring managers basically look at three lenses. So one is the functional skill, the other is the domain skill, and the other is the leadership skill. So some companies like a Flipkart say they want someone who is very specialized in e-commerce, knows the ins and outs of supply chain. So over there, you need to rank higher on domain skills. But in some companies, they'd like to, for depending on the seniority of the role itself, they'd like for a person to have more leadership skills. So hiring managers basically look at just three lenses: functional skills, domain skills, and leadership skills. So in your interviews, you have to focus on demonstrating these three skills, and voila, you're a product designer at your dream company.
That's great. And thank you, Nitin, for joining in. And audience, thank you for the participation. It's been a great session. But I have to stress on the screen that you can see. Please scan the QR code for an elaborate discussion, 30-minute coaching session with our faculty, and get all your questions answered in that 30 minutes. So yeah, that's about it. That concludes our session. Thank you for joining in, making this session a huge success. And design career is not a subject that you can get answers to within an hour, and hence we have made various platforms available to address all your queries. Reach out to us on our website for detailed information on the ICUX Flex program. You can send an email to us on engage@ipl.edu or book a 30-minute session with our faculty. And folks, do not miss out on the opportunity to apply for the Norman Scholarship that I mentioned earlier. And thank you. Have a great night. Happy learning and stay skilled.
Thank you, Shama.
Thank you, Nitin.